This is the ENGWE L20 version 2.0. It is the first utility-style electric bike I can load with a week of groceries and still look forward to riding the long way home. It sits in that compact fat tire, step-through category that is built for daily life. If you want one bike that can commute, haul errands, and wander down a gravel path without feeling sketchy, this is exactly that lane. It is approachable for a new electric bike rider, and it still has enough punch and stability to keep a more experienced rider from getting bored. The frame is a true step-through, which matters more than it sounds. In stop-and-go traffic or when the rear rack is loaded, swinging a leg over a high-top tube gets old fast. Here I just step in, sit down, and roll. The feeling is upright and relaxed, almost like a cruiser, but the geometry does not feel lazy. The handlebars sweep back enough to keep my wrists neutral, and the height adjustment lets me dial in a posture that does not punish my lower back on longer rides. The tires are 20-inch fat rubber, right around 4 inches wide, and they do a lot of the comfort work even before the suspension fork gets involved. I usually run them a touch softer than a road tire, so they float over cracks and painted lines instead of pinging off them. The rear rack is not an afterthought. It bolts to the frame in a way that feels solid, and it does not wag around when you hit a bump with weight back there. I have strapped on a milk crate, a pair of panniers, and a backpack, sometimes all at once, and the bike still tracks straight. The paint and welds look tidy, the cable routing is clean, and the kickstand is wide enough that the bike does not tip when I park on uneven pavement. The display is a color screen centered on the bars. It is easy to read and shade, and in bright sun, I sometimes shade it with a hand for a second to check speed and battery. The buttons for assist and lights are big enough to find with gloves, and the throttle placement is natural so I do not have to hunt for it. Setup felt welcoming. Out of the box, I had to put on the pedals, align the handlebar, check the brakes, and air up the tires. The included tools got it done. I took my time and still had it road ready in under an hour. Nothing about it felt fussy, and there were no mystery bolts or cables. On the first ride, the cadence sensor and controller felt smooth, not jumpy. When I tap the pedals, it rolls forward with a predictable nudge instead of a sudden surge. The throttle is there when I want to rest my legs or get across an intersection quickly. There is a gentle ramp as you twist so it does not snap your head back, but it has enough urgency to feel useful. Power matters on hills and at stop lights. From a dead stop, this motor pulls with a steady shove that makes the bike feel lighter than it is. On throttle only, I cruise around 20 miles per hour without effort. With pedal assist and a bit of a spin, I see the high 20s on the display on flat ground. That is fast enough that wind noise becomes the main sound in my ears. On a couple of the longer climbs near me, the bike holds a respectable pace without forcing me to stand up or mash on the pedals. It is not a motorcycle, but it takes the grind out of hills. Braking is handled by mechanical disc calipers. They are consistent, they do not fade over a long downhill, and they are easy to adjust. In rain, they can squeal a bit until they dry off, which is normal for this style. I would love the extra feel of hydraulic brakes, but I never felt unsafe here. The suspension fork takes the sting out of potholes and curbs, and the seat has enough cushioning that I did not go shopping for a new saddle on day one. At higher speeds, the short wheelbase and wide tires keep the bike planted. It tracks straight through expansion joints and gravel patches without a twitch. Range is where this bike surprised me. On a typical week, I ride a mix of paved paths and slow neighborhood streets. A lot of stop signs, some throttle use when I am lazy, and usually a moderate assist level. Riding like that, I cleared a bit over 50 miles on a single charge more than once. I do not babysit the display. I just ride, and the battery drops at a pace that matches a full work week of use for me. Charging overnight is easy because the battery pops out. I bring it inside, set it near an outlet, and it is full again in about the length of an evening movie and a late dinner. The ability to charge indoors is a small thing that becomes a big deal if you live in an apartment or keep the bike in a garage with limited power access. I have put this bike through a handful of very normal, very telling scenarios. One is my grocery run. There is a store 2.5 miles away with a brutal little incline on the way back. I load 2 bags on the rear rack, strap a baguette across the top and roll out. With that weight on the back, lesser racks will twist or make the bike feel like a spring. This rack stays quiet. The motor covers the hill without me having to think about it, and the frame does not wobble even when I stand for a second to stretch. Another is a weekend gravel path near the river. The surface is a mix of hard pack and washboard. I drop the tire pressure a touch and let the fork do its thing. The bike floats over the chatter without shaking bolts loose or rattling the fenders. It is not a mountain bike, and I do not pretend it is, but for unpaved shortcuts and parks it behaves. Night rides matter because that is when you notice the small stuff. The headlight is bright and throws a clean beam that reaches far enough to see potholes with time to react. The tail light wakes up when I brake, which makes me more comfortable at intersections. The display's backlight is gentle on the eyes in the dark. In the rain, the fenders keep spray off my shoes, and the tires keep traction on paint if I aim for smooth inputs and avoid sharp lean. For daily use, my routine is simple. I keep a small hand pump and a multi-tool in a pannier. I top off the tires once a week. I check the chain and give it a quick wipe. The bike rewards that little bit of attention by being drama-free. The motor does make a bit of a whir when I use higher assist levels. On quiet streets at night, people will hear me coming. I do not mind it, but if you want total silence, this is not that. The speed readout on my unit runs a hair optimistic, maybe 1 or 2 miles per hour fast compared to my phone's GPS. I adjusted to it, and it does not affect my day, but it is worth knowing if you track rides closely. There are a few clever touches that I appreciate. The step-through frame and upright bars make quick stops and frequent mounts effortless. That alone saves energy on commutes with a lot of lights. The adjustability for both seat and handlebar height means I can share the bike with a friend without tools. The battery lock is easy to reach, and the release is smooth. The controller's tuning avoids that on-off feel that some cadence-based systems suffer from. It eases in and out of power, so I do not overrun corners or get startled when I re-engage after coasting. The gearing keeps a natural cadence up to the mid-20s. Past that, I start to spin a bit too fast, which is typical for a 20-inch wheel bike, but in day-to-day riding it lives in the sweet spot. A specific use case that has become a favorite for me is my cross-town commute to a parking space. It is just under 8 miles each way with a mix of bike lanes, a short stretch of rough pavement, and one steep bridge. I roll out on assist level 2, bump to level 3 for the bridge, then drop back down and enjoy the scenery. I arrive without a sweat-drenched shirt. I lock the frame and the battery, and the bike is waiting when I am done. On the way back, I sometimes take a detour through the park and cut across a dirt path. The tires shrug it off. I get home with juice to spare, and I am not wiped out, which means I actually ride more days instead of defaulting to a car. Not everything is perfect. The bike is heavy. If you have to carry it up a narrow stairway, that will not be fun. The mechanical brakes work and they are easy to service, but they do not have the buttery feel of hydraulics. The display can wash out in bright noon sun. Shorter riders may find the seat post still a hair tall even at the lowest setting, and very tall riders will want to raise the bars to avoid hunching. None of those are deal breakers for me, but they are the kind of details I want to know about before choosing a daily bike. Stepping back, the ENGWE L20 version 2.0 has earned a regular spot in my routine because it focuses on the things that actually matter. It is easy to mount, easy to live with, stable under load, and confident on rough city streets. It moves quickly enough to replace most short car trips, and it has the comfort to keep me riding longer than I planned. If you want a light carbon rocket or a whisper quiet road machine, this will not thrill you. If you need to shoulder a bike up 3 flights every day, you will not love the weight. But if you want a reliable, comfortable, do most things well electric bike with real cargo ability and a friendly ride, this one hits that target. I will leave detailed information about the ENGWE L20 2 in the comments for your reference. Thank you for watching.